Welcome to Monday Morning Express. And you know, Roland, last week I think I kind of ended off complaining a little bit, didn't I?
A little bit. You're always whining.
But today I'm happy because look what came in. Our mugs.
Hey, they look pretty
They
good.
look good. You
Don't
did
they?
a good job designing them.
Yeah.
They bring back some nice memories.
Yeah. Actually, Amanda designed it. I just took the photos.
Okay, and credit.
I'll take the credit. Yeah, they're really nice, actually. And hey, here's what I like about them. Look at this little sticker inside. It keeps the hot for 8 hours, the cold for 24 hours. What?
Wow, hot and cold, kind
What
of
do you
like
got?
the memories of my
You
trip.
got coffee in there?
We're in Florida. I got sweet tea.
Sweet tea. Very nice. Well, now it's a dual purpose, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So well,
it's
glad
nice
to see the
have
mugs.
those. Now,
Glad to see
something
them.
else I wanted.
That's right.
Keychains.
Keychains. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
okay.
look at that. Instead of by the magic of television, I know I say that a lot, but by the magic of the Postal Service, sometimes
and
that
the
is
good graces
magic.
of Anthony Duarte.
All right,
and
look
now
what we
here's
got.
what I'm really looking to
Yeah.
see. They do not say #1 fanboy of Jimmy Booth or whatever.
Sorry, Pat. These are ours.
We got our own Monday Morning Express. Very nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Looking
Thanks,
good.
Anthony. Appreciate
All
it.
right, yeah.
That's a kind of cool thing to have custom made for us.
Very nice. I don't know if I've got 10 sets of keychains, but well, we'll figure out something to do with them, right?
Yeah, I'm sure we can figure out something.
Yeah.
Might have to give a few away as special gifts.
Nice
But
gift.
I'm going to keep in mind, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, we're winding down, but we got a nice episode planned.
Yeah, looking forward to it. We got some updates. We got a nice project that we're going to talk about with Glacier Park, the T1s.
Yes, so
You
it's
know?
been announced, but
Yeah.
this time we've got solid information.
Yeah. And we've got pictures of each version, what we're going to have available. So we look forward to discussing that a little bit later in the show.
And even where the project is in the stream. So.
Yeah, and then we got some UTI updates. In fact, we're going to talk with Mr. Chuck Stead of Union Terminal Imports. We're going to Skype with him. So he's just got a barrage of projects. That,
Even some special announcements going to come
some
from
new
him
stuff
too.
there.
So it's a great show. We got new mugs, we got
Yeah.
new keychains,
and we got an
new
update
updates.
on Division Point.
Okay,
So we want to
good.
mention that. So just hot off the press, so to speak.
And then we'll have a little history of brass as promised, and then next week we'll follow that up with another interesting segment.
Yeah.
But today I'm going to just talk a little bit and show some of the very early instances of brass in the hobby, and then of course how that kind of morphed into what we have today.
Very good. And also on our How To with Hal, we're going to go, some of our audience might be thinking, what happened to the rest of the Shorts episode?
The rest of Hal's shorts.
Well, something like that. So we're going to go back and we're going to see the second half of that and look a little bit more into how we diagnose that and how we can go about seeing even how to repair some issues that we have when we have a short with a model.
And it really is a great couple episodes because nothing can drive you crazier than thinking your model's running good and then you can't identify those shorts.
Yeah,
so that's good. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
And of course, we're going to talk with microscale.
Okay.
So that's a pretty cool little segment that we're going to have, and I'm sure that our audience is going to appreciate that.
Well, Roland, I'm joining you today on Project Updates.
Yeah, it's
because
about
it's a
time.
very exciting one. I am pretty happy to see that Glacier Park Models is officially announcing the Pennsylvania T1 streamlined locomotive.
Right. Yeah, these are some bad boys, right? These 4444s, these duplexes, right? It's nice, and by the way, we already have them up on our site, but we'll talk a little bit about them. You're going to see some pictures across your screen. These models, which are really beefy looking, I love the appearance of these guys.
Combined with the streamline.
Oh, streamline.
I think these were designed
Beautiful.
by Lowy.
Yeah.
They got a great history. They had a practical start because they were trying to get rid of the double headers.
Right,
And
right.
so they thought the power here in these duplexes could handle that. They were in service for a while. And they're probably one of the most iconic American steam engines of all time. So
Yeah.
it's a great project.
Yeah, and in fact, the ones that Jimmy at Glacier Park is doing have never been done before.
These versions,
Yeah, these
according
versions,
to Jimmy.
yeah, so-
Lots of T1s have been done, going back to
Yeah.
Elko. Key Imports has
Right,
done some
right.
beautiful ones through the
Yeah.
years. But even their benchmark has been a long time. So these models are going to
Sure.
be fantastic. So
Yeah.
the Pensy guys, the Streamline collectors, guys that just want a fantastic
love
looking
these.
engine,
Yeah.
this should be a big hit.
So let's go through some of the highlights of these. Now, we mentioned there's different versions. There's actually six different versions that Glacier Park is doing here. And some of these are just absolutely cool. I love the 5519 where it has that full train phone antenna back there inside of the tender.
Yeah, it's an incredible looking tender.
Isn't that look cool? Yeah. I mean, just looks really, really good.
Right.
So with that, and all that is streamlined, like you mentioned, the models just look so sleek.
And he's going to have some access to the water hatches that's never been modeled or even was able to be modeled before, because it's really neat to see how that worked with that streamlined shrouding, how they got to those.
Yeah, I believe it's sliding ones. Right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's nice. The 5549 is, as he showed it there. I think one of the cool things mentioned on a few of these is that over the second set of cylinders, you can probably see that there in the images, how they had that sheet metal to cover that. So they're not exposed as they were on the previous version. So that looks kind of cool.
Yeah, it's probably one of the most dramatic differences as they underwent some changes through the years.
Right. So keeps adding to the streamlining of it, of course. So the versions, we could just highlight them here as he shows the 5519, the 5549, the 5536, 5511, and the 5529. And of course, some other really cool things that we mentioned there. It has to do a lot with the skirting. But you were highlighting one of the I forgot about the 5517. That was the last one. Right. And there was something that you saw in there that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, the 5517 with those cam box covers removed on the cylinders kind of gives it a really, I would say, kind of mechanical, almost steampunk look combined with that streamlined feel to it. And that's definitely never been modeled before.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's going to be some pretty fabulous engines. I think guys are going to want a good selection of these.
Yeah, so we've got them available. We got them up on our site right now. So just make sure to tell everyone, go ahead and get your reservations in for these.
And I think it's important to let them know this is already into the process. The pilot models have been built. Yeah. We're trying to get some photos, which we hope to have next week. Right. But I mean, it's well along, so we can't promise a date yet, but this is important to get the orders in for, because until we get the reservations, we're not going to know how many of each variation need to be produced.
Right. So good point. So so go to our website at brasstrains.com. Make sure to click on the new brass section, and you'll see it there under Glacier Park Models. So look forward to getting some of those reservations in. In addition, Dan, we also wanted to highlight Division Point. Hot off the wire, you may have seen or may not have seen, but Jack has really confirmed that he is taking over those projects from PSC. Right. So we know 3 of them. We mentioned those before, the Seaboards, the Frisco Mountains, and then also he's going to incorporate the RF&Ps into his Berkshire project. Right. So maybe not all variations of all of those, but it's nice to see that Jack is going to go ahead and pick those up. And we'll have to see what else he's going to do too, because he's got all of their data packages. Yeah, and it's sad to see kind of Mark taking a break, Mark and Beth, but they deserve it. Oh yeah. And what I think is interesting is the industry's strong enough that it's all getting absorbed. Jack's picking up the steam, another company picked up the parts line. So they're ready for a break, and we understand that. But we can see that brass model railroading is not dead, because all of this gets absorbed and keeps going. The customers are still excited to get it, and it's great they'll still have that avenue. Absolutely. Well, we know that that's not all in our project updates, because we'll be back with Chuck at UTI. Yep, just a little bit later. So we look forward to that. But now I think we're going to go out to you and Hal. Yeah. And we're going to carry on a little bit more about finding those nefarious shorts. We've got our short. So how do we go about determining where? Well, first thing we're going to do, now let's see, can we move this? Yes. Let's get it out of the way. Okay. First thing we're going to do is just going to take it apart, and we're going to set the engine on the track all by itself. I don't know, we'll put this back over here so you can see it. And I'm going to turn up the voltage. The engine's good. Okay. I'm going to wiggle it around. Right. This one has that's plastic brake shoes, so we can see right now there is no problem in the engine. I'll jiggle the jaw bar around. It's not touching anything. Okay. So the engine is good. So we know our drivers are good on this, everything. As far as that's concerned. If you had a shorted driver, the light would have come on. Or if I'm going to point out on something right here, on these United models, this was usually, some of them, I don't believe this, I think this is maybe a white metal. But no, it's not white metal. This is
probably something non-metallic, but there's a, this is the insulated side. There's a little
shoulder there.
little shoulder there, and that keeps the flange from rubbing against the flame. Okay. Now, some model makers have all metal wheels with just a little not brass, but a plastic insulator, and they have a washer. You seen a little, it could be red
ones,
whatever color, that's inserted on the axle when they assembled the model, and that keeps the flange from touching the side of the front pilot truck frame.
Okay. Now, we were talking earlier, and just, to help our audience, most probably already know, but just in case they don't, you mentioned insulation. Also on the drivers themselves, because we'll say in most cases, right, 99% of the time, on the loco, the left side, might say the fireman's side, has the insulation in the driver. Can we see that maybe on the camera? Turn it correctly there. Maybe you might be able to point that out.
See if I can get this light here to shine on it.
Yeah. All right. And if we tilt it up just a little bit, we might be able to see.
Yeah, you can see it right there. It's a gray stuff. Some are going to be oxide color.
Right, right.
Now, if you flip it over to look at the other side, you will see you don't see any insulation in there.
Right, right. Okay, so that helps us to appreciate and understand that any of the pickup from the track will come from the
all
engine
pickups
inside,
on the engine
side.
are going to be on the right side or the engineer side.
Right, and then the tender then is exactly the opposite.
It's the opposite.
Right, and so that's how we pick up our DC current.
So we're going to set that there, and we're going to look at our tender.
Okay.
Now, since we've got it, we know we've got a short. It's not in the engine. It's going to have to be in the tender, but we're going to put it back on.
We see it already.
I'm going to wiggle this around, but it doesn't seem to be doing anything. So I'm going to take it, give an examination of the tender.
Okay.
And I'll turn it this way. Oh, looks like we've got there's the insulator. You can see it.
And see, on the tender, it's a little bit different, right?
And we flip it over. We got a truck on backwards. Now on the tender, all the insulated wheels should be on the fireman or the right side of the tender. So I've got some locomotives you can rotate it around, but this has to come off. So Roland, if you'll kind of hold that tender. Sure. And let's just hope I don't lose this.
Don't lose the spring.
Don't lose the spring. I'll turn that around.
Okay.
And you want to pull it up and hear that little snapping sound. That means the shoulder has gone through the hole. Now we're going to set this little tender back on the track.
Hey, look at no more light.
No more short.
Yeah.
That problem with that tender was a truck on back.
Turn backwards. Okay. So that was a pretty, obviously an easy one. But you know what I've appreciated, Hal, is that you dissect, by process of elimination sometimes, right? Eliminate the loco or eliminate the tender.
Yes.
And then you can, that really helps you in narrowing down or determining where the short is.
Now, was running the other night a Northern Pacific Fujiyama A5, unpainted. And my power supply at home, same thing as this one, I could see the light blinking. And it has brass brake shoes. I adjusted all the brake shoes. They were good. I set the engine on the track, and I put a piece of paper under each wheel one at a time to isolate the wheel. And then I got to the number 3 driver, I still had the short. So I said, something's wrong with that driver. It's either shorted out or rubbing against something. So There's one way to really find a short, and if you've got, I use an MRC Train Master, Control Master 20 on my home layout. It's good for G scales. It puts out a lot of current. So I went out and took my A5, put it on the track, turned down the lights low in the garage, and wiggled the engine, moved it up and down. And right between the two air pumps, it was like a little welder was in there.
Little sparklers, huh?
And what it was the top of the flange was touching one of the brackets that holds the air pump to the boiler. And the fix of that was I just took my fingers and just kind of pushed the boiler in, probably 10,000ths of an inch, 20,000ths of an inch.
Okay.
I didn't have to sand on it, file on it. I just bent it in a little bit.
Yeah.
And that fixed the short.
Cool. You know, that's one of the best techniques that you have taught me and I've seen as far as being able to, you've got a train running, a sporadic, shut off the lights. Shut off the lights and see if you see the spark anywhere.
I have saved many hours. Just take it out on my layout, turn off the lights, and you want some light shining so you can see where the short is coming from on the engine.
But if it's a brake shoe that's barely touching, if it's a detail part that's barely touching, if it's the pilot, a lot of times you can determine that just by turning the lights off.
Take this engine right here. Everything on it is brass.
Right.
I don't like putting KD couplers on the front of a brass locomotive. They just don't look good.
Okay.
And I always mill mine out so they will mate with a KD if I want a double head. Now we had a problem the other night when I was double heading my two A5s. This little coupler lift bar was falling down and touching the pilot, causing a short because this is positive and this is negative or vice versa. You can't have, when you're double heading, you can't have any contact between the two engines. Sometimes the air hose on the bottom might be touching the pilot. Matter of fact, I had a KD coupler on the tender, and of course it's made out of metal, and that little arm shorted. I saw when it touched the KD coupler, the little spring just melted.
Wow. So there's all kinds of things that could potentially be causing a short.
Yeah.
You just have to be able to dissect and get in there and determine exactly what it is.
Sometimes it'll drive you crazy.
Yeah.
Now you get with DCC, it usually, I'm not a DCC person, but usually when you get a short in a DCC, it shuts down. And then it resets itself. But with this continuous current, you can just run it down the track and it looks like sparklers under there.
All right. Well, Hal, listen, we certainly appreciate some of those tips and tricks that we can actually, if we're running a model on our layout or our test track and we've got issues with it, hopefully they can go back and look at this series and see just a little bit of the ways in which you can go about dissecting it and finding out where the short is. So certainly appreciate all of that, and we look forward to getting with you once more. Wanting to decal our model train. So we've painted it, we're ready to go. Now, if anything like what we have here at our shop, customers out there might have these Champ decals. We've got literally boxes of these. We get collections in, so we see what people are collecting, and they've had these perhaps on their shelves for years. We keep them in a dark room, humidity controlled. But then we also have our line of microscale decals. So tell us pros and cons, between them, and which ones you prefer to use.
Well, the Champ decals were great for their time period. I mean, back then, that's all we used. We used these and microscale, but I'm finding out that the film on the Champ, it's a little thick,
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking them down. I'd still use them for some stuff. But when you're working with, like, let's say an entire passenger train, that's worth thousands of dollars.
Sure.
Let's go for the gusto, man. Let's use the good decals, brand new decals, recently run.
Fresh, right?
And if they're not available, we can go the other route of getting them custom printed.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the paper, sometimes it starts to yellow.
Yeah.
It depends on where you store your decals. I try to keep them in a filing cabinet.
Right.
Out of the sunlight.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
more light that's exposed to your decals, I just, avoid using them. And I always ask people when people want to send me something to paint, I'm going to send you decals. And I'm like, well, I prefer to go buy a fresh batch. How long have you had your decals? If they just purchased them, fine. But I prefer to use newer decals.
Right.
And
it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and at Microscale, they've already refined them. They've gone back and revised a lot of their sets. So that's what I tend to go with, the revised sheets. But if I'm going to do a passenger train that's never been done, now by getting our own custom decals made, we can, instead of, if you have all your car numbers, now you can have them printed up with all your car numbers, your car names, so that way you don't have to sit there and piece together your names or numbers and the color you want. But I'd say out of every 10 models, 3 of them will be custom decals.
Okay.
It's that because some stuff's just not available, and there's a lot of collectors out there that do not want their numbers pieced together.
Right. Okay. So let's say this. Okay, I'm wanting to go. I have a 10-car passenger set.
Yes.
Okay, but there's so much that I need, and someone else is also painting a 10-car passenger set. Maybe I'm doing UP and he's doing New York Central. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
There is a way, and we talked about this a little earlier, that combined efforts might really be advantageous, right? Because Microscale is able to do these custom runs.
Yes.
Right? So who better to ask than, well, Microscale.
Yeah.
Right? So through the magic of your computer, why don't we get Scott from Microscale on the phone? Hey, Scott, we're going to Skype in with you. You there, buddy?
Hey, I'm here. How you guys doing?
All righty.
Good. Hey, we had you on last season, and we thanks again for allowing us to come there and tour your facility. It was just a great episode. But we have a question for you. What is a minimum run that you can do on a set of decals?
So our minimum run is 250 pieces.
Okay.
We have, we'll do custom artwork at $50 an hour, minimum of 1 hour. Obviously, the easier the art, the quicker we can get the art done.
Right.
And then our production lead time, including art, could be 6 to 8 weeks, depending on our production flows and our art flow.
Okay. So that's not bad. 6 to 8 weeks for custom decals.
Yeah.
Right. So you might want to make sure to incorporate that lead time, of course, into your project if you have a set deadline on that.
Yeah.
Excellent. So 250 sheets. And then, of course, as you mentioned, if you guys do the artwork, you have that charge of $50 an hour. Now, what if a customer, well, they have their own artwork? I think you had mentioned to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that some of the file formats that you guys can accept is like from Adobe Illustrator, the AI files, EPS files, and PDF. Is that correct?
Correct. Exactly.
Okay. Okay. So they can go ahead and create that and then send that to you guys.
Yeah, and send it to Vicki Hayes. She's our customer service rep that handles all the custom work that comes in-house.
Okay.
And she's really good to work with, and she'll get everything you need together for your project to get completed.
Excellent. Boy, so there's a solution to a problem that a few guys have come across, and being able to perhaps pull their efforts together and either get them to do the artwork at Microscale or submit it yourself.
Yeah. Hey, Scott, I have one more question. If we have, let's say, this sheet right here, an existing Microscale sheet that's in stock, but what if we wanted it a different color? Like, let's say I want all this black. Would you guys be able to rerun an existing decal in a different color as a custom product?
Yeah, I was actually just going to mention that we will allow our customers to use our existing art on larger scales or small scale than we offer in our retail line. And also, if you wanted a different color scheme than what we offer in our retail line, we do accommodate that most of the time. I guess there would be a super rare occasion maybe, but for the most part, we've always accommodated the customer for that.
Oh, that's very
Great,
cool.
yeah.
Very cool.
That's why I choose to go with these guys.
All right. Well, hey, Scott, we certainly appreciate it. Hey, give us the phone number there at Microscale one more time if you can.
It's 714-593-1422, and Vicki Hayes is our customer service rep. And
Excellent. So Vicki will take care of us. We know Vicki. We got to see her on the last episode there when we were out there, and she's such a sweetheart. So Boyd loves her. We love her too. So certainly appreciate everything that you guys are doing there over at Microscale.
Thanks.
All right,
Thank
buddy.
you.
We'll take care of that.
All
All
right,
right.
thanks.
All right, guys.
All right, bye.
All right. So Boyd, there's our solution, right?
Yeah, that's it.
So
You know,
if you've got the decals, hopefully they're not in bad shape. You can use them. We prefer the Microscale decals, but if you need them custom done, you guys can do that too.
yeah. The thing is, when you're doing an entire train and you want it custom, the small expense, like
Yeah, spend the extra money.
$400 to $500 for a custom decal sheet, maybe less, a lot less. But I'm just saying, in some examples, I've done my own decal sheets for just 3 or 4 train sets. And they've paid off when these other guys got together and they pooled in their money to do a custom decal run.
Okay.
And when you've got cars that are so unique that nobody else has decals to,
Right.
it's
Way
it's
to go.
really neat.
All right, buddy. Well, thanks
All
again
righty,
for
man.
stopping by. We
a
appreciate
lot.
it, and a little lesson there on our decals.
Yeah.
Very good. Dan, we're going to check in with Mr. Chuck Stead of Union Terminal Imports, and we're doing that via Skype. How you doing today, Chuck?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you? You see, I have my historic. I have this piece of history here, and I've updated it.
Yeah, you have to use history already.
And that is a keeper, but see what we got now. Look at these. They're good for hot or cold, and they kind of are a recap of our
of the
season.
season.
And Chuck,
I
as
saw
a faithful supporter of Monday Morning Express since our inaugural episode, we're going to make sure you get at least one of these.
You got to have it. It's a
Yeah.
collection now. It's a collector's item.
But don't
Well, I see
lose
you-
your first season one.
I see you have the Kraus Maffei logo on there.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. It's on here. It's on our
Yep.
screen behind us. Speaking of Cross Maffeis, you sent us an updated package this week, and we're going to go through a few of your projects. So let's bring our audience up to speed. Let's talk about those Cross Maffeis. When can we expect them? How's the project going?
Well, I see you have running in the background there some pictures I sent you of some pilot model parts, and you can see that the shells are partly completed on the pilot models.
Yeah.
So the pilot models will be finished by the end of May, and then we'll go into production, and we expect production in the late fall. So we're still open for reservations until we sign off on the pilot models.
So that should be pretty soon, right? That you freeze
soon.
those and sign off pretty soon?
End of May.
End of May. Excellent. Okay, so we're looking forward to those, getting those
I'm
Cross
excited.
Maffeis.
That's soon.
Yeah, that's a nice project. I
Yeah.
personally like a few of the different versions you have there. All right, let's move on to the Illinois Central and the Pullman 10-6 sleepers.
We sent Seho the research and data package about a month ago, and he's already started into his process of creating the 3D drawings. So that's moving right along. We'll have pilot models on that project by midsummer.
Okay.
And Seho really wants to get that one done before the end of the year, and so do we.
Okay.
So we're looking at delivery of all the production models in November or December.
November. All right. That'd be great. Excellent. Moving on, you have a new announcement. And of course, we have some of that on the screen behind us too coming up. What is that?
Yep. Well, you've already actually scrolled. There it is right there, the tail car of the city of Kansas City. That's one that we've been hopeful of doing since we did the Wabash Bluebird, which was a real successful project. So we're announcing today through you that we're going to produce the city of Kansas City. That's a 7-car train with a E7 number 1000 that's lettered for the city of Kansas City. And the cars are very interesting because they were built of steel, but then they were shrouded in an aluminum shell. And the fluting, the roof, the sides, exterior is aluminum. And then we're going to do the version in the Wabash blue color, the dark blue with railroad Roman lettering, then the later banner blue with Gothic lettering. And we're also going to do the Norfolk and Western in the banner blue with N&W lettering. The first two, Wabash Blue and the Banner Blue with Wabash lettering will be in sets, and we're going to do individual cars for the Norfolk and Western.
Okay, so just as a recap on that, so you got 2 7-car sets, different paint schemes, diaphragms, one's the full width, right?
Correct.
Okay,
One's
very
full
good.
width, the original's full width, and then the later's narrow width. They have skirts throughout their life.
Very nice.
Interesting thing about those cars.
Yeah.
And you're building the power for those too, Chuck?
Yep, we're doing the E7. We're going to do that E7, the Wabash 1000 at the same time we do the Illinois Central E units.
Okay.
So that'll actually probably come out a couple of months ahead of when those passenger cars come out.
We want to let our audience know that for our site, we actually combined it both together, so you can go ahead and get the power also in the same location that you can get reserve these the passenger sets. Okay, so
That's great.
Yeah, the guys will love that. That's nice to get them together.
Yeah, make
Looking
it
forward
really
to
easy.
it.
And that's a great looking set. I love the Wabash Blue. It'll look really, really good. Excellent. Glad to hear that. Moving on, how about the Jeeps, the GP9s? How's that coming?
So we're working on the GP9 research and data package now. We expect to get that to SEHO in about 2 months, and then pilot models in the fall and delivery in early 2019.
Okay, excellent. Boy, there's a lot going on over at UTI, but I still got a few more here. Now, we have announced and got reservations or interest, so to speak, in the Norfolk Southern Heritage Series. And we had mentioned that this was going to be a project that UTI was interested in doing. So where do we stand with that now?
Well, I've got really good news on that. I talked with Brian Marsh, and Brian had planned on doing these at one time. And he and Missy went all around the country and chased every single unit. And they got photographs of every one of them, front, back, sides, and they've got some other data that they had already put together. So Brian has agreed to join the project and provide all that information to us, which gives us a huge head start.
Yeah.
Nick
that's
Muff
great news.
has agreed to do the 2D CAD drawings. So that constitutes, when we put the 2D CAD drawings together with all the photographs and Brian's notes, that constitutes the completed research and data project, which we're working on now. We're just beginning, and we'll get that to SEHO later this year and start delivering the first increment in 2019.
Excellent. And I'm glad to say that at Brass Trains, the interest is really, really good so far.
Yes.
Chuck, we already have over 100 reservation interest in that. So the project should be quite well.
I think we'll see it pick up even more now that
Yeah.
they see this is going to happen.
It's going to happen, yeah.
It's going to happen, and we really appreciate what you guys did, because it's really the fact that you put it out there and you got the indication of interest that let us know to go ahead with it.
Yeah, good, and thanks to our customers. Very nice. Moving along, so how about the Southern Pacific DH643s?
So DH643s, we have a lot of interest in that project. That will come next. So we're looking at 2019 delivery. We really haven't started, other than to put it out there that we're going to do it, and to gauge the interest. We'll get the UTI catalog numbers up on the website in the next couple of weeks, so that you can start actually booking reservations against the catalog numbers, and then we'll get started on the research and data package.
Excellent. Okay.
You're just full of good news today, Chuck.
And then finally the DODX cabooses.
DODX cabooses, we need more reservations. It's very, very light.
Yeah. If I had a little banner that goes across the screen, get your reservations now.
Now or never.
Yeah, you mentioned that project's at risk of being canceled if we don't get them in, right?
Yeah.
All right. So
one of the things that you guys helped a lot with during Brass Expo, when we had that evening session, the customers said, if you're going to cancel something, let us know.
Right.
Yeah.
So, we got that feedback loud and clear. And so we'll let this caboose project ride a little bit longer, but we got to have more reservations.
Yeah. So it's
We're
getting
gonna have to
close,
cancel
right?
it.
Okay. All right, so there's the warning. Well, hey, Chuck, you know what? You might have to hire someone else besides just poor Ed, because you got so many projects going on, but I guess that's a good thing, right?
Very good. We're having a great time. Yeah.
Excellent.
Our
excellent.
congratulations to you guys, Chuck. UTI's been putting out one great project after another, and we're happy to see even more in the line.
Yeah,
Can't wait
the list
for
is
'em.
good. All right.
Well, thank you. And you know, a lot of this is because of your support. Thanks to Monday Morning Express.
All right, thanks, Chuck. And hey, listen, we probably won't get a chance to talk with you next week, but next season, we'll have you back on the show, buddy.
Okay, take care.
All right, take care, Chuck.
Hi, I'm Adam Pomeranz, and I flew all the way to Orlando to go to the most magical place on earth, BrassTrains.com. You're watching Monday Morning Express, Season 3.
Today, for the history of brass, I thought we'd take a little look into a few areas where we normally wouldn't even consider these as brass models. If we think of Mantua or Varney, we appreciate their place in model railroad history.
Sure.
We don't really think that they were involved in brass. We don't have them in our brass guide. Nobody really has. But the first time we started seeing brass introduced, of course, was in these type of castings.
Right, right.
This happens to be a very rare Varney set with a streamlined, sort of quasi New York Central Empire State Express, apparently, model. And we can see it's a very crude casting of brass.
Sure.
And what they did in these is they came with parts. They were kits. They were very nicely put together. There were some brass parts, but primarily either a Zamac or some sort of a cast, metal like this we see. And that would tend to deteriorate over time. And of course, we couldn't get the detail. The piece in front of you is interesting because Varney used a totally different style box.
Unbelievable.
Very rare to
Very
see.
thick.
And look how, I mean, it's still polished up nicely. It came out of the box that way. I'm not a Varney expert, so I don't know the circa of these, but I'm guessing 40s, 50s somewhere. This box is interesting. It came in that metal box with these nice little dividers. We're starting to see more and more brass being introduced into that. What I thought was particularly interesting is this Mantua locomotive kit. Very rare to find in this condition. As we open this up, it is just like the day somebody got it.
Yeah.
You know, we'll show some pictures of that. But what we start seeing introduced is this pressed brass.
Right.
So now it's considerably easier to work with.
Yeah.
You know,
it's thinner too. You see how much
yeah,
thinner it is.
because what we have is a casting versus just a pressed sheet brass.
Right.
And think with the hobbyist in mind, you know, trying to apply the details to that boiler. You know, there's some sort of detail that was tried to be cast in there, you know, but it's pretty crude. Whereas now they're starting to see, wow, we can rivet to this, we can solder to this. Our detail is going to be much better. The enjoyment of putting together this kit will be much better. And this still has the paperwork. So this kit came out in December of 1947.
That's something.
So this predates brass. And then when we get into the early international, you know, these kits, now we start seeing something where they were what we call sometimes like a screwdriver kit, where in the Orient, they would start applying everything, and then the end consumer would simply have to put some of those pieces together.
A lot of the parts are all soldered on there already.
Yeah, and you can see the detail is starting to improve. The ease of use would improve. It's not as heavy. I mean, you want a certain amount of weight in your locomotive, of course, but not necessarily like that. And of course, there were a few reasons for this I think we've touched on in the past. A kit, even if it was a screwdriver kit, for a while with duties would be exempt. But as we see this, you know, there was still valve gear to put together.
Right.
You know, we see the cylinders were still some sort of Zamac or metal casting. The tender is more brass. The wheel sets are still not completely all brass. So it's just interesting to see the kind of the evolution.
Sure.
And then, you know, beyond this, as we know, it went into the early hand belts and the production that we start seeing now.
We're spoiled today.
We are, and it's interesting. I think what's important is sometimes, like, as much as we promote brass as art, which you know we feel it is, in these early days, guys just wanted to put together a locomotive. Now today, people wouldn't be willing. Very few people would have the skill or time or willingness to put together a kit like this. It would be hundreds of hours, and the end product, there's no way it could be nearly as good as what we're seeing produced. So it helps us kind of appreciate where we're at, but also where it came from and how that necessity to build brass models and the desire to have the best model was because they felt it was simply the best medium to work with. And so that's a little bit of our history today.
Very nice.
Now next week, I will talk about some of the great mysteries of life.
Ooh.
Life's big questions when it comes to
You're going to answer
brass
all of it?
model
Oh, when
trains.
it comes to brass.
Yeah, I got to keep it within my wheelhouse.
There you go.
But we'll look forward to that. It's been a great episode. The seasons are kind of flying by.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
next
you
week's
know.
our finale, our
Yeah,
final episode.
I know. I can't believe it's already here.
Yeah.
You know, we cut it down to 10 weeks, but it's a little more manageable for us. And certainly, even within that, though, we want great content.
Right.
You know, we've always wanted great content. So
Yeah.
we've tried to make sure of that. We went out to Durango.
Yep.
And so we've got a lot of stuff from Durango. And, you know, I reminisce still. I don't like the cold.
Yeah.
But sure did
was
like the beauty
driven
of
home to me
all of those
again.
locals and the trip that we had is really, really cool to be
Right.
there. So we're going to talk a little bit
In
more
fact,
about
next
that.
week, it's our last trip out there. I think
Yeah.
myself and Jimmy had a chance to talk to Charlie about the rebuild of the number 476.
Right.
So we'll touch on that next week.
Okay.
What else do we have in store?
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about the following season,
Yes.
right?
Give
Because
a
we're going
few
to talk
more
about
hints.
season. That's going to be. I got to count now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Season 4.
It's getting up there.
Right. Okay. So that's right around the corner. Some of the things that we have planned for that, we think our audience is going to like that. Another trip's involved, and I know Pat always likes road trips. He's
Yeah,
telling
that's
me.
right.
So we're going to bring some of the guys.
He
so we
likes
look
it as
forward to
long as
that.
there's a in and out anywhere
Isn't that
nearby when we
something?
land.
Very good.
Of course,
So we look
don't we
forward to
all?
that.
Yep. So anyways, that's it for today. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week on Monday Morning Express.